Well, good afternoon, Rotarians.
Good afternoon.
It's so good. Welcome to the May 1st meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. Sound system sounds different. Improved sound system? All right, it's good. It's all good. Yes, welcome to the May 1st meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I'm Kevin Kassier, and I think it's wonderful to look out and see so many faces today. You know, I'm a strategy metrics guy, right? And so I keep track of the numbers, and you probably don't do that. So here's what we have: 74 people here today. Yeah. So again, here's the metrics. Last year average 62, target 68. We're averaging on Thursdays. When we get over 70, I'm celebrating. So I'm a little juiced here. So this is great to see you all. Thank you all for coming. Special thanks, well, we're doing thank yous. Special thanks to Eric Overfeld. You are Eric? Thank you for being the greeter today, Eric. And to those of you who have not signed up, say, you know, at least in the last 6 months, it's time to get your name on the sign-up sheet, and we make it really easy for you. You either click on our newsletter that says duties, boom, that will take you there. You can go on the Club Runner if you're more advanced and find it there, or just simply sign up when you walk out, right, Kitty, at our badge table. So a great way to give back and meet everybody and contribute to a good meeting on Thursdays. So for those of you who haven't done it in a while, please sign up. And now, again, as I ask people to sign up, we'll invite Bob Vedder to come up. You can sign up for the moment of inspiration as well, as Bob has done. And then he will lead us with a Pledge of Allegiance and the 4-way test. So please welcome Bob Vedder.
Thank you, President Kevin. I have been reflecting on the concept of service. One definition is the contribution to the welfare of others. It is my belief we all possess a soul of service within us. That soul of service can apply to our families, friends, neighbors, neighborhoods, the communities in which we reside, our state, nation, and the world. It is also important to recognize the importance of having a soul of service to ourselves. How do we serve our greater being by taking care of our physical and mental selves? We can do this by creating those physical habits that will help our bodies endure more over time. Also, our mental health. We all have had, or will have struggles in our lives. In service to ourselves, it is important to seek help when we need it. And if we recognize it in someone, to reach out and listen with compassion and interest, and perhaps guide that individual towards the assistance they may need. The question we ask ourselves on a daily basis is that in caring for ourselves as human beings, that we are better able to care for others on whatever level that they may need. That may be through a kind words such as please and thank you, that we may, for example, express to those who so professionally serve us on a weekly basis at the Embassy Club. An expression of appreciation and of pride, of accomplishment and other forms of recognition to others can make them see those qualities within themselves that they may not have seen. It is always having the awareness, as we know as Rotarians, of service beyond self. So today and every day going forward in our lives, let's all exhibit our soul of service, not only to ourselves, but also to others. Now if you join me to pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the 4-way test.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And now greet your fellow Rotarians.
Jordan, thank you for what you do. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Get back at it. Thank you, everybody. We have, let's see, we have 4 guests here today. And so this is our time when we recognize our guests that have joined us. I'll introduce you. I'll ask you to stand when I introduce you. And then remain standing, and then we will recognize you all at once, all right? So first we have Dave Everett, retired from Corteva Agriscience, a guest of Steve Stiefel. We have Steve Moran, Director of Marketing of ZLR Ignition, a guest of Tim Lilwitz. We have Gabrielle Vasquez, an attorney and mediator with McGrail and Benzinger, a guest of Melissa Merrifield. And we have Ann Lemare, daughter of Mike Lemare. Welcome, everybody. Really appreciate you joining us today. I want to talk about some things, or one thing that we had a get together with a fellowship group. I don't think Randy Worth is here today, but he does a great job of leading this fellowship group. And we had a big day on Saturday. There was a number of us there. And what you see there, a couple pictures. One was he arranged a locomotive to pull up to the facility. So we got to tour and sit in the actual locomotive. They had a semi-truck simulator that people could go in and check out. And then there was a number of Rotarians with some pretty cool cars. And we had families there, kids, grandkids. It was really a nice event on Saturday morning. So thanks all that came. Thanks all that shared their cars, and a special thank you to Randy Worth. And now is the time to get a little smarter with Did You Know? And I tried to come up with an important medical topic here today, tying into Ben's presentation. So my topic is goosebumps. Okay, so why do we get goosebumps? There's a couple of reasons. Oh, Patty, you're gonna do it? Go ahead.
I can tell you what they told us in medical school.
Okay, I've done my research, so I'm gonna check
Tell me
it.
if I'm right or wrong.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
It's a holdover from when we had fur, so that it would make our fur go up and make us warmer if we were in a cold weather.
Okay, I heard a little different story. Should I be correcting? No, I probably shouldn't. All right, anyway, here's my story.
Okay.
Here's my story. The body recognizes the cold, and as a defensive mechanism, it shuts down your pores to warm you up. When it's shutting your pores down, the hair stands up. So I don't know, it might be slightly different, yeah. And the other one, there's a second one. The second one is a fight or flight response. So it's a psychological or neurological process where if you get excited, if you get fearful, if you get shocked, it sends a message to your nerves to, hey, watch out. Boom, your hair pops up. So there you go. That's what I've learned. Now, the history of this is that the term dates back to 1859. It took off around the 1960s, where it really became a popular thing to say. Before that, it was called, in the 1700s and 1800s, it said goosebump, goose flesh. So I think I'm glad that we went with goosebumps, because that's kind of gross. So now, speaking of excitement or potential fear, Skeet Wooten is going to be coming up here. Where's Skeet? There he is. I didn't see you standing up there, Skeet.
I'm short.
Skeet's going to do another segment of Rotarians on the Floor Laughing, or ROFL. Mr. Wu.
Really save that for the first speaker. You know, hearing about Goosebumps, I'm pretty sure no one is on the edge of their seat when you hear this. But anyway, I see Steve Beckley's back. Steve, when you were at the Copacabana Beach, did you meet a showgirl named Lola?
Don't tell my wife.
Don't tell your wife. Okay. All right. Well, humor is everywhere, hopefully here. You just have to look for it. Cars can get funny names. We've moved a long way from the Model T. You know, we morphed a Volkswagen into a Rabbit. No one who speaks Spanish would drive a Chevy Nova, since Nova translates into doesn't go. You know, I probably ought to stop here.
We all got goosebumps.
But I won't. I'm sure you do, Sean. So, you know, Hummers and the Ford Probe certainly are not an improvement. But product names can be deceptive. You know, IKEA mostly relies on common words from Sweden to name their products. Rugs tend to be named after towns in Scandinavia. Other products borrow plant names or animal names, but Fartful Workbench may have gone a bit too far. While fartful may mean speedy to those who speak Swedish, it has a far more unsavory implication for those non-Swedish shoppers. Okay, oddly enough, also there was a spike in Corona beer sales shortly after the coronavirus was declared in early 2020. And companies need to be careful too. For example, would you take the love of your life to Salmonella's Pizza? Or if you need gas for your propane tank, would you go to Passmore Gas and Propane? And Mark, I don't think you have to worry about this, but there's a funeral home called Am I Gone Funeral Home? And I don't know about you, but I'm not hiring STD contractors to do any work around my house. Or go to a hair salon called Curl Up and Die. Lastly of all, URL addresses have some interesting fails, and I'll leave you with two. www.choosespain.net, which is for Choose Spain, and www.American Scrap Metal, which is for American Scrap Metal. Thank you.
Well done. And now invite Dr. Doug Warner up to introduce our keynote speaker today.
All kind of notes up here. Talking to the microphone, I'll try and do that. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Ben Vallier, who is our speaker today. He's been in the Des Moines area for 5 years as the CEO of the Iowa Clinic. When he and I were chatting a week or so ago, I thought about how healthcare in a physician's office has changed in the years that I've been in Des Moines. I moved back to Des Moines after college, medical school, residency, fellowship in the Army in 1974, and joined my father in practice. We had an office, two-man office across the street in the Equitable Building, and at that time, that was a physician group, two of us practicing together. The largest physician group at that time was an orthopedic surgeon office on Ingersoll at 28th, which was three or four orthopedic surgeons. Tim and I visited the McFarland Clinic, was in business in Ames at that time, which was the largest multi-specialty clinic. Tim has been the CEO of the Iowa Clinic for 5 years. He and his wife are Kansans. This is for the Cyclones in the audience. He's a proud graduate of Kansas State University. He's an undergrad and has an MBA from Baker University. He has an interest in Des Moines, has 3 young daughters, 13, 11, and 9, I believe, and they have all become boosters, as has his wife, of the Des Moines community. So it's my pleasure to introduce Tim Valier. Okay, I get one do-over. It's Ben Valier.
Well, I was going to say some really nice things about Dr. Dorner. And that kind introduction. Sort of a little differently.
That's the problem.
No, thank you, Dr. Dorner. That's very kind, and I appreciate the invitation. It's great to be here with all of you today. A lot of familiar faces. I saw our banker Todd showed up today, and so we was just checking to make sure we're getting the bills paid or what. But I think hopefully we're doing okay. I don't know if you know this about Dr. Dorner. He is a legend in healthcare, not just at the Iowa Clinic, but in our community. He's just done wonderful things, saved many, many lives, and it just has a tremendous legacy with physicians that have come after him. So again, thank you. Just to get a sense of the room, are there any other healthcare or former healthcare professionals here? Okay, so I appreciate you guys wouldn't correct me if I say anything you disagree with. I'll be kind of keeping an eye on it. Appreciate it. All right, let's see if this is working. She gave me very clear instructions on how to work this. Let's see. All right, so just a little bit about the Iowa Clinic. We are one of the largest physician-owned medical practices in the state of Iowa, but also in the country. We have, this slide's old already, we have about 300 providers today practicing in 50 medical and surgical subspecialties at about 16 locations. And we have about 1,200 employees. And importantly, we are not a hospital. So they'll come in handy later on in this talk. We are owned locally by physicians that practice in our clinic today. List of our subspecialties, you don't need to see that, but my marketing people always put it in my slide deck, so I'm not reading it to you, don't worry. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit today about the state of healthcare, but before that, if you'll go one more, I want to talk a bit about our focus as a healthcare provider in your community. It's 4 things we call the quadruple aim. First is the patient experience, it's how you feel about the healthcare that you receive with us. Second is the population health, that's the care that we provide to our community. 3 is stabilizing healthcare costs, and 4 is the provider experience, how providers feel about the care that they're providing, which is important for a whole host of reasons, but I'll give you a quick one, because I do feel like it's weird, like if I owned a shoe store and I was like, one of my main things is just, you know, the guy that sells the shoes, his happiness, right? Like that's really important, we all know that in the service industry, but I'll tell you in healthcare, there's some unique challenges happening. In the next few years, we are going to face a 140,000 physician shortage across the United States. Iowa today is 44th in the nation for the number of doctors per 100 people. We are 50th in the nation for OBGYNs per 100 people. All right, so we have some significant challenges today that are getting worse every single day. So part of my organization's goal is to be a place where doctors want to practice so they can come to Iowa and they can be part of hopefully an organization that's just a little bit different than what they might find somewhere else. So enough on that. I'm going to talk mostly today about number 3, stabilizing healthcare costs. There's a lot of things happening in the healthcare industry. Today, we spend $4.9 trillion on healthcare, 17.5% of GDP. That's $15,000 roughly per household in the United States. And let's think about what a trillion means. I'm not sure the human brain can actually really conceptualize this. Here's how I do it. If I start counting right now, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, how long do you think it's going to take me to get to a trillion? 31,000 years. We're spending 4.9 of those every single year. And the costs are going up at a tremendous rate, an unsustainable rate. And unfortunately, it's been my experience that the folks that finance healthcare, many of you in this room, our business included, don't understand how healthcare works, healthcare financing, healthcare pricing. Oftentimes, our brokers don't really understand that, and even more so, the insurance companies don't understand that. Now, I will say the insurance companies understand financing of healthcare, but they don't necessarily understand the delivery, how the costs actually happen, how care moves, how patients move throughout the system. So, I'm not an economist, and I don't think I have to be in order to talk a little bit about what is clearly an intransigent problem that all of us are going to interact with in our lives because you all interact with my industry, unfortunately, right? Next slide, if you will. Over the last 10 years, healthcare costs have gone up by 300%. This is a 2022 slide. I'd rather use a little bit older data and make sure it's really good than newer data that's questionable. But these are the major insurance companies across the United States. United Healthcare did over $300 billion in business. That's just one element of this. Next slide, if you will. This increase gets translated to all of us that run businesses, right? Both us or our taxpayers, and ultimately to individuals. So in 2022 in the United States, the average total commercial healthcare cost for a family was over $22,000. That's $6,100 per family just in the employee portion of that. Average household income in 2022 was $62,000, 10% of household income just going to healthcare expenses. And that's why we see deductibles going up, right? Companies can't tolerate all of this. We see co-insurance increasing all the time to individuals that do not have sufficient disposable income to pay for these things, which results in healthcare costs being the #1 reason for bankruptcy in the United States today. It's a sad state of affairs. Next slide. So it's unsustainable, we know that. And I'm going to talk just about one sliver of this in my own little part of the world. Like I said, I'm not even sure I'm a healthcare expert. I'm an expert in like a really tiny part of the healthcare delivery system. So, of the costs I just talked about, 25% of those go to physicians. That's the direct payments that physicians receive across the country. Another quarter of it is hospital care, a little bit more than that. A big chunk of it's pharmacy, which is increasing all the time. And then it's everything else. It's nursing homes, it's medical equipment, things like that. But physicians direct 80% of the total healthcare costs, right? If you're in the hospital, your doctor may have sent you there. If you're getting an x-ray, a doctor ordered that for you. If you're getting a pharmacy script picked up, your doctor ordered that. So the selection of physicians becomes very, very important. And as somebody who has a self-funded health plan, that should be really important to me as well. It's been my experience, though, that the professionals that help to support me in that are not able to help advise me effectively on how to navigate that system, because there are significant differences. Now, I'm gonna plug my company one time. The Iowa, because it's a little known thing, it's not something you'll ever see on a billboard. The Iowa Clinic delivers healthcare at 15 to 20% less for the total cost of care than anybody else in our market and almost anyone else in our whole state. Okay? Which is something we're very proud of, but you'll never see it on a billboard. Why? Because consumers associate price with quality. So you will not see an Iowa Clinic, we're cheaper than everyone else. Anytime soon when you're going down 80, it's not gonna happen. But for folks that are business folks that finance this, we shout it from the rooftops, or at least we shout it in conference rooms and events like this. So how do we do that? We do it a couple of ways. One is we focus on prevention. The healthcare system today is really designed to treat disease, not to create prevention. So all of the incentives are around treatment, not prevention. That's slowly changing, so we try to have a strong focus on prevention. The other thing we do, in this next slide, we talk about the best kept secret in healthcare. I grab my water real fast, if I may. What's the best kept secret in healthcare, you ask? I'm so glad. I'm really happy to tell you about it. So I'm going to walk you through a scenario, if I may. Next slide. I'd like to introduce you to Lois. Anybody know who Lois is? Okay. At the Iowa Clinic, we like to have fun with this. We also don't mind engaging in just mild copyright infringement. So that's what we're going to do today. This is Lois, but not from the Comedy Central TV show. This is Lois. She's employed locally at one of your companies, and she's on your commercial insurance plan. Unfortunately, she discovered a lump in her breast, all too common, and she needed to seek treatment for that. So she went in, she got an ultrasound, she got a mammogram, she got a biopsy, and we have a concern about this lump. Go to the next slide. We're going to need to get an MRI. Now, you can get an MRI at an outpatient facility that's not affiliated with the hospital, or you can get an MRI at an outpatient facility affiliated with the hospital. You as a consumer likely will not be told what this difference is. You as an employer will not be told about this difference. Sometimes I do a survey in rooms like this, I'll say, hey, who knows about this difference? Typically, it's 80 or 85% of folks don't know about this. However, your self-funded health plan might pay $900 for that MRI, or you might pay $1,500 for that MRI. Same piece of equipment, same staff, same cost in terms of operating costs of the business, same physician even. Could be the exact same physician, but it's on one side of the street or it's on another side of the street. It's on a hospital license or it's not. Next slide. We get an MRI, we're going to need some more treatment. Unfortunately, surgery is going to be required. A couple choices for surgery. You can get surgery at an outpatient facility, it's called ambulatory surgery center. Might cost $1,900. Or you can do it at a hospital outpatient department. It's going to cost $5,000. You're not going to be told what the difference is. You're not going to be told that there's an option. You're going to go likely where your doctor wants you to go. Next slide. Fortunately, Lois, she's going to need a little bit of follow-up therapy. So she's going to need some radiation oncology, some therapy that way. You can do it at an outpatient, and it's going to cost $3,800, or you can do it at a hospital outpatient. It's going to be $4,800. Again, you don't know the difference. You're just following through. You're just going through the system. You've got cancer. You're scared, right? You're just doing what you're told. Let's add all this up. The difference, just for Lois, just in this one episode of care, is the difference between $11,200 and $6,700. Now, what I will tell you is this happens every single day in every aspect of healthcare. Labs, x-ray, anything you get done, anything is subject to these kinds of differences. And I could have shown you an example that was much, much more aggressive, as much as 300% difference. I could have shown you one that was maybe 15%. This one's a pretty good representation of what we think happens across the country today. If you add this up, just that delta, you multiply it times everything, all the services that are delivered in healthcare today, remembering that I said that we spend $4.9 trillion on healthcare, that's a $500 billion delta, just that difference that no one tells you about. They don't tell you about it as an individual consumer, they don't tell you about it as an employer, and they don't tell you about it as a taxpayer. And that's why it's the best kept secret in healthcare. Next slide. I think I already said all the stuff on the slide, so we just keep going. If I were to wrap this up and I were to offer maybe some tips, if I'm qualified to do that, I might suggest that if you run a business, ask really good questions from your broker. There are lots of ways to navigate this system to help your employees find cost-effective, high-quality care. We just don't do that. And what I encourage employers to do is to think about their health plan like they would think about any other aspect of their supply chain, right? Michelin spends more money on rubber or on healthcare than they do on rubber. Starbucks spends more money on healthcare for their employees than they do on coffee beans, right? Boeing spends more money on healthcare than they do on, that's like aluminum or steel, whatever their raw material is. Same thing with the car companies. This is a massive expense that we as a country, with brilliant business minds, have not figured out how to crack. And I think it's actually much easier when we do that at the local level, with groups like this, with smart people that can figure out how to work together in a community to help their employees and help their businesses navigate healthcare more intelligently. I think it starts with understanding the best kept secret in healthcare. This is why I go and do this. That's all I got. Questions? Oh, thank you so much. Sure.
If the doctor is the one controlling or suggesting where patients, why aren't they suggesting the alternatives that you're talking about? I'm not getting that understanding why, because the doctor's getting a kickback otherwise to send them to this other place? What's involved here? I mean, I could put in a lot of negative thought there as to why they're choosing the higher price versus the lower price.
Yeah, so
Same service.
So a lot of it has to do with where they're employed. It really does. Now, there's certainly times where one location is more appropriate. Certainly, if you have certain comorbidities and you have certain physical circumstances, a hospital is going to be the appropriate place to do things. Sometimes there's a higher level of support. There's reasons to do that. But the overriding issue is where they're employed, where their employer says, hey, you should do this or you should do that. or if they're incentivized to manage the total cost or not is another big one. But I would say in our country, we now have 70% roughly, I think 65–70% of physicians are now employed by large health systems. And there's a reason for that, and it's because of the pricing control and the delta on pricing that exists. Yes?
Put on your consumer hat with your own family, or your Iowa Clinic hat. And maybe it's the same hat, maybe not. But if you were the czar of CMS today, arguably the biggest payer by far, and the Congress is dealing with this right now, and God love them if they can find a conclusion. What would your counsel be?
Side of service neutrality. And that is, we remove the difference in Medicare pricing between a hospital outpatient department and an ambulatory surgery center, between hospital-based imaging outpatient or true outpatient. If you neutralize that within Medicare, all of the insurance company pricing tends to pretty much follow Medicare pricing, which would help to really resolve this arbitrage very, very quickly. It would also return a lot of doctors to private practice very, very quickly, because that arbitrage supports those acquisitions of private practice medical groups. And why wouldn't it, right? If you can take a group that's generating $10 million today in revenue, and simply by purchasing them, with doing no other work, changing no other costs, you can generate $5 million in incremental revenue. There's a great business plan to do that. So if you remove this incentive at the Medicare level, a lot of this really changes within our system. And there's so many things tied to this. It's unbelievable. Vendor pricing and device pricing, and all of this is based on how much you can charge for something and how much you're going to get paid for it. So, yeah. Yes, sir. In the back.
I've always been a little confused about where the Iowa Clinic fits in with the two big health systems. Clearly you're competitors, but can I go to Unity Point and to Iowa Clinic? And second question is, are you owned by all of your doctors in your system, or some of your doctors and then other doctors who work together?
I'll answer the second one first. So we are owned by the majority of our doctors. So basically, when you come to the Iowa Clinic, you kind of have a track. So we got to check you out, make sure you're okay. And once you've demonstrated you're a solid citizen, solid doctor, etc., then you become a partner. So our goal is that everybody have an equal ownership in our practice, so they have an equal stake in the outcomes of the practice. Second question, so we practice at both hospitals. So many times we'll be mistaken for a hospital employee, but we are a private business, and we have affiliations with the different hospitals for different services. We have contracts to provide different things. And by the way, we need great hospitals, and hospitals are, this is not an anti-hospital thing. This is simply a discussion around pricing and how healthcare cost happens. But we go to both hospitals for different things. And so in the surgery example I talked about, your doctor could be an Iowa Clinic doctor you're seeing for that surgery. They might think it's better to do that surgery at the hospital for one reason or another. They might recommend that you do it at an outpatient center if it's appropriate for you. So, other questions? Yes, ma'am. Doctor.
That's all right. I spent my career in public health preventive medicine, so I'm very much for trying to keep people healthy rather than treating them after they're sick. When we start talking about prices, if you look at the whole community, one of the biggest benefits and savings of money is when we stop people from smoking. I don't know how much that saved the American economy, but it's huge. And yet, when we look at trying to get people to eat healthier food, exercise, whatever, nobody pays for it. There's no way for somebody who's got a very small income, for example, to learn what food is healthy, things like that. And it just seems like this is not the way the public or the healthcare system should be. We should be spending more money on keeping people healthy, because that in the end would save us, I think, more money.
Very much so.
So what's your thoughts on that? How do we change that dynamic?
Yeah, that's a pretty big problem for me to solve today at the Rotary Club. But, I think the part of that we can kind of own in healthcare is where the incentives lie around managing the care and focusing on preventative care, right? Like I think solving dietary issues, we can help a little bit on the edges, but we're probably a little bit more upstream than that. But what we focus on and where we place incentives is on making sure that if you're a family physician, that your patients are receiving a mammogram, that they're getting their colonoscopy, that they're overweight's being managed, their diabetes is being managed, they're taking their medications. That's sort of the domain I think where we can kind of have the biggest impact right now. So we try to focus on that, and that's really been one of the keys to our success. Sure.
Your comment about prevention versus treatment, what's happening at the medical school level? Is that transition happening, or are they still focusing on treatment?
You know, I think there's a movement towards that in certain subspecialties. I mean, you're probably not gonna have a ton of that in like the surgical world a lot. They're pretty deep into that. But and one of the other challenges I think the medical schools have is I believe it used to be like every 10 years the fund of medical knowledge would double, and that's now down to like every 3 years. So just keeping up with the science and the technology of medicine alone is a pretty big feat to try to change your curriculum all the time. But I think there's an increasing focus on that, and there's increasing data that you can access around preventive care. So I do think there's a focus on that. But just the science alone is a lot to get folks in and out of the 4 years. Yeah.
There's been recent studies disclosed about the cancer rate in Iowa. And I'm wondering are the clinics prepared for an uptick or an influx? What can be done to improve it?
Yeah, so I think we're, don't quote me on it, it's like number 2 in the country for instances of cancer, and we're climbing to 1, is the thought. Yeah, so I do think the system's relatively well prepared. I can speak to Central Iowa, I can't speak to beyond that, but I think we're pretty well prepared for that here. But there's some challenges with that, some of the corners of the state for sure. And as a state, I think it is a major public health challenge. And I don't know, I don't want to speculate on why all those things exist. I'm not an epidemiologist, but it's a major concern, something we talk about a lot. I don't know, I got too many. Sir?
Yes, with respect to the future of AI as it relates to medicine, question of whether there comes a point where AI does a better job of surgery than a real live surgeon. There was a program recently that talked about how at a certain point down the road, it may do as well as a good surgeon. At another farther point down the road, it may do the quality of an excellent surgeon or better. How's that going to impact the medical profession?
Yeah, I was at a conference the other day where we were talking about that with a Stanford physician that's really enmeshed in this, and the answer is no one knows. Do I think those things are going to be possible? Yes. Do I think it's 10 years away like Bill Gates says? I don't quite think so. But do I think 20 years is that possible? It could be. I think AI will take over areas like diagnostic imaging and replacing perhaps some physicians or augmenting what physicians do. And so we really see it in healthcare, I think, as initially a process improvement tool. Just to make, we do a ton of clerical work, a ton of regulatory work, a ton of documentation work. If we can make that burden easier, that's probably where we start. And then I think it turns into an augmentation tool. And then we talk about replacement maybe down the road a ways. Not something I bring up at our shareholder meetings real often. But certainly something we talk about. I'm sorry, there's several. Yes, ma'am.
In the day when it was called Methodist Hospital, and Dr. Garner's father was in charge there, and I was the public librarian, we established a medical library there for the staff. Does that still exist, or has that gone by the wayside?
I believe it's still there.
Oh, good.
I don't work in that building or go down there real often, but I walk by a library in the kind of the basement area over there.
Well, it was so that the staff did not have to go to the state medical library. They had their own resources, and so I didn't know if that still exists.
I think so.
The answer is yes.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Doug. Yes.
How are you in your systems lobbying maybe differently to Congress and educating the Congress people as opposed to the large medical systems?
You're talking about in DC?
Yes.
DC is almost impenetrable for us. There's one of the largest lobbies. It's called the American Hospital Association, and it's extraordinarily well funded, and it's pretty hard. So there are some physician-focused lobbying groups that we're involved with. The American Medical Group Association being one. So we do that, but it is extraordinarily difficult to lobby in DC in the healthcare space if you're not part of the big conglomerate. Steve.
two questions related. Why would a doctor want to work for Iowa Clinic? Why would a patient want to go to Iowa Clinic?
No, thanks for asking that question. If you guys know any physicians, I might be hiring. So I think from a physician standpoint, we really try to provide doctors a level of autonomy with respect to decision making for things that are important to their practice, not just medically, but in terms of who their staff person is, how do they arrange their schedule, how much time do they spend with patients, how do they take time off, those kinds of things we try to do in a really unique way. And then we try to support them in a unique way where every doctor, when they come to our clinic, they get a mobile app, has my personal cell phone in it, and they can call me or text me absolutely anytime. And in many organizations, I'd be totally inaccessible. That would be a nightmare for me in many organizations. It's really part of our DNA that we're responsive in that way. So we just try to be unique, and then we try to have tremendous transparency economically, what's happening, where the resource is going, and then we have physician committees that govern those things. So at the end of the day, we don't want to come between the doctors and their patients. And for a doctor in our system today, where suicidality rates and depression rates are off the charts with doctors, for them, that's often a welcome relief. So we measure the satisfaction of our physicians from time to time, and what we figured out is the doctors that are the happiest, like off the charts, like 110th percentile level of satisfaction, are those that have worked somewhere else in a big corporate environment for a number of years. It's actually the ones who have always worked in our environment that are the lesser satisfied. So, well, this is what we have. Of course I can call that guy up. Like, they don't appreciate that as much. But that's kind of how we have it. As a patient, I think we are really, really proud of our quality outcomes. We put them up against anyone in the entire state of Iowa all day long. We're very transparent about that. So we can prove that we take great care of patients. And we're about the 90th percentile for our satisfaction amongst our customers. So we think we're doing pretty well there. Always working on improving. If you've had that experience, I'll knock the door or no. But we're always working on that. We're really proud of both those outcomes. Sir?
What are your thoughts on universal health care and how it impacts that 4.9 trillion?
Yeah, I don't know. I go back and forth. On the one hand, I see the benefits of capitalism. Right, and I experience, we see the incentive that can create to advance technology and advanced training and advanced treatment outcomes. At the same time, some of those incentives aren't really in play in our system in the way that they should be. So I get torn between would it be better to sort of remove some capitalistic incentives, or are those capitalistic incentives driving some really good things about our healthcare? And I think at the end of the day, it's probably an equal mix of both. I mean, when you remove the tab from those making the orders, you're going to get more appetizers and a more expensive wine, right? And so, but we have we have that today as well. So I don't have a great answer. I'm conflicted about that myself. Sir.
How does the Iowa Clinic handle the uninsured?
So where we interact with the uninsured the most is in the ER. So we provide consultative services to local hospitals through a call system. And so we're down there taking care of uninsured patients every night in some form or another. And then we have a sort of a discounted charity type system to help them with the economic side of that. Good questions. Yes?
I've got a question on Medicare, and I don't know if you can answer it. But I used to get a statement showing the cost of a prescription and what I had to pay. And I always wondered how much of the total amount went to the physician or the person ordering it. And then the other thing was, now they won't even tell me how much is being charged. All I know now is what I have to pay. And it seems like I'm operating completely in the dark. I have no idea what's going on, who's getting paid or how much.
For prescription?
Yeah.
So I can tell you the answer, the doctor gets zero. So that part I can tell you. And the other part is part of the whole pharmacy benefit management and retail insurance partnership that is a big black hole, and I do not pretend to understand all of it.
Do people get charged different amounts for the same thing all over the country?
The answer is yes, but I would tell you that in the healthcare world, the charge matters very little, because you have contracts that dictate how much you're actually going to be paid, and the rest is just a write-off. So we don't talk about charges a whole lot. We talk about what are we getting paid for the service we're providing, or what's our cost to provide that, and can we do that based on what the reimbursement schedule actually is. So we talk all the time in the sort of in the media world about charges, and I think there's a lot of healthcare people going, why? That's not how it works. Okay.
Thank you.
Ben, thank you very much for joining us today out of your busy schedule. We really appreciate it. We saw all the questions that we had for you and the large group. We're excited to have you here. Thank you. And thanks for all you do to make us healthier. Okay, upcoming meetings. I see Dave Busick back there, our chair of our program committee, continuing to do just a phenomenal job this year. So really proud of the program committee and the type of programs like today that we're getting. And then we try to mix it up, right? So not all CEOs, and we get a variety of topics, and the next 3 weeks is a good example of that. So next week is the executive director of the Iowa Asian Alliance. After that, president of the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation, and then the CEO of Lutheran Services of Iowa. So 3 interesting programs over the next 3 weeks. Think about bringing somebody to Rotary. Other events coming up. We just had a morning fuel this past Tuesday. You heard me promote Helen Miller. It was a great day. I think there was 18 of us that attended the coffee. So if you haven't done that before, it is worthwhile to come. It was really interesting hearing about her experiences. Was 16 years, I think, in the Iowa legislature and the Iowa Parole Board, and just, again, the great people we have in this club. Let's get to learn more about them and their amazing life stories, and that's an opportunity to do that. So our next one coming up is Dr. Doug Warner, who is going to be speaking about his career, and we heard a little bit about that and talking with Ben, so that should be exciting. It's coming up real quick, so it's in just a couple weeks, May 13th. We're going to turn it around really quickly there. And then following that in June, we have Claudia Schabel, CEO of her organization. So some great opportunities to get together for a cup of coffee in a casual setting and learn about some of our great Rotarians. So thank you all for being with us today. Thanks for making this Rotary Club just the fantastic Rotary Club that it is. Make it a great Rotarian week. We are adjourned.